Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us here at the Department of Public Works maintenance facility. Oftentimes we're here in the cold. We're very surprised to be here today because we had a storm yesterday, unpredicted, that certainly caught everyone unawares. I'm joined by a number of my colleagues who are going to be speaking in just a few moments from the Suffolk County Police Department. Chief Stuart Cameron will be giving us an update on public safety. We're also joined by Dan Eichhorn, President and COO of PSEG Long Island. I want to thank Dan for their quick response, and he's going to be giving us an update as well. We also have with us the Acting Commissioner of the Department of Public Works, Darnell Tyson, JT Andriasi, Highway Maintenance Supervisor, our Director of Operations, Tom Vaughan, as well as Parks Commissioner Phil Bedolt, and special thanks also to the Commissioner of the Department of Fire, Rescue, and Emergency Services, John Jordan, who really led our efforts yesterday in response to this unexpected storm. So we have seen our share of extreme weather events here in Suffolk County, so this is not a surprise to us. What is a surprise was both the severity of this storm yesterday and the fact that it was unpredicted. This caught pretty much everyone unawares, from families enjoying the first full weekend with school out of the summertime, at beaches, at parks, at pools, out on the bay, out on the water. Just a great Long Island, Suffolk County summer day. And all of a sudden, it was interrupted by this extreme weather event, this thunderstorm with straight line winds. This was not a tornado. This was essentially just below hurricane level winds in a straight line, which is in many ways worse because it's over such a wide swath of area. But you didn't have that circular wind going. So this storm, again, caught people by surprise, including my own family, who I had joined down at the Babylon Village pool. And the scene there was a scene that was similar throughout significant chunks of western Suffolk County, where people were running for cover, running to get indoors, to get away from something that happened without notice and very quickly. And the results of that were a number of downed trees, downed limbs that blocked roadways, and that obviously had a huge impact on power on Long Island. And again, he'll be speaking in a few moments, but I want to thank PSEG Long Island for their quick response and the great communications between our office and the Department of Fire, Rescue, and Emergency Services and our Emergency Operations Center that we opened yesterday, and the work that they've done to assemble crews quickly to respond to a severe storm, again, that was unpredicted. As of 11 o'clock, and Dan will give an update, we still had about 20,000 customers out. That may have changed now, but upwards of 80,000 as of yesterday, and it shows how significant this storm. Our crews, as I said, were out as we opened up the Emergency Operations Center in response to the storm. We're out through the night working to clear trees in conjunction with all of our town, local municipal partners who had crews out. The significant impacts here were in the town of Smithtown, town of Huntington, and the town of Islip. Parts of town of Babylon were hit as well, but the main damage occurred in those three towns. So crews were out responding. At this point, all roadways are passable, have been cleared, but the effort to restore power is still underway at this time. Due to Long Island Railroad suspension yesterday between Farmingdale and Ronkonkoma, Suffolk County Transit deployed 14 transit buses out of 35 vehicles that we used to shuttle Long Island Railroad customers yesterday, and we commenced that operation at about 5 p.m. And that extended through 1:30 early this morning. We saw a call volume that was unprecedented for a Sunday, and really up there with anything that we have seen in the past over a 2-hour window, and I'll let the chief talk about that a little more. We were able to get through that call volume yesterday, and things have returned to normal at this point. Suffolk County Police Department, as has been made public, reports one storm-related death. The investigation of that incident is ongoing, and we'll report more facts on that as they become available. We're encouraging residents who have any additional information that they need to report or any assistance to call Suffolk County's 311 call center. Call that number 311, and it's part of why we've established 311. 911 was taking a huge number of calls. One of the main reasons, again, for 311 is to take a lot of non-emergency calls off of their hands. A lot of duplicate calls yesterday, of course, but yesterday was a significant extreme weather event, and again, we've now had a history of seeing these type of unexpected events, but this was unique yesterday, both in its severity and how unpredicted this was. This came in, it started for most people saying simply, hey, there are some dark clouds on the horizon, to looks like it's going to pour, to, you know, we got to run for cover here. We have to get inside and we have to take cover. And that's what happened, and we're fortunate that there were no other injuries, significant injuries or deaths reported. With that, I want to turn it over to the Chief of Police, Chief Stuart Cameron, and then over to Dan Eichhorn to give us an update from PSE&G. Chief?
Thank you, sir. As the county executive said, probably one of the most challenging things about this storm for us was the suddenness of it. It was really not predicted, not expected. And when I came to the headquarters this morning, I was speaking to the same staff and communications that I was talking to repeatedly on the phone yesterday, and they told me the first notification they really had on this storm, that the storm was occurring, when they received the first phone call about 2:45 that wires were down. As you can imagine, our normal communications section staffing on a quiet Sunday afternoon is rather light in comparison. For a storm that was predicted, as when we normally stand here when we're getting snowed upon, it's freezing cold, normally we'll make adjustments in staffing ahead of time. But one thing that's not lost on me after 34 years of public safety is things happen unexpectedly and we need to adapt, and we've done a lot of training to be able to do that. So that's exactly what the communications section did yesterday. They adapted. They were able to put staffing on almost every one of our 911 call stations by canceling breaks, by canceling meals, and by reassigning people. So I want to commend the actions of our communications staff, because they were really all in on this storm and they adjusted very, very rapidly. As the county executive said, this was really magnitudes higher than the call volume that we would expect on a Sunday, and it was almost unprecedented for any event in the history of the Suffolk County Police Department. Really, really stressed our system. And because the system was stressed, because the proliferation of cell phone calls, which are great because we're able to get contact very rapidly from emergency events, but when you get an event like this, we receive multiple calls on the same event. Normally when we have a less of a volume, the dispatchers are able to cull out the duplicate calls, but that was far more difficult to do yesterday. So at one point, we had several hundred calls, unassigned calls, backed up in our queue, but as it turned out, several of them were duplicate calls. So one message to the public: when an event like this happens, if you call 911, please do so. Try to be judicious, and please only call us if it's really an emergency, you really need us. If it's not a dire emergency, please try not to call us. Get put in the queue. If you get a recording, please stay on the line. We'll eventually get to you, and the police department will get to you. We made some adjustments in the precinct staffing as well. We held some officers over. We brought some officers in early, and by early this morning, the call backup was completely resolved, and we've resumed normal operations.
Thank you, Chief. Now I want to bring Dan Eichhorn, again, head of PSE&G Long Island, and right from the start of this event, right in the aftermath, we were in direct contact. Appreciate the communication and the quick response. Again, there was no preparation for this, and they had crews out there right away. So Dan, appreciate your efforts here.
Thanks, Steve. Hi everyone, I'm Dan Eichhorn, president of PSEG Long Island, and just to reiterate, yesterday's storm, we lost 80,000 customers in a period of about an hour. Significant damage from Smithtown down to Islip, and as Executive Balone mentioned, the towns that were hit the hardest were Huntington, Islip, and Smithtown. We immediately went into action, had a great response from our crews. A lot of people working through the overnight hours. Of those 80,000 customers who are out, about 61,000 have been restored as of right now. So we have about 19,000 customers yet to restore. We think based on the crew complements we have, we'll have about another 10,000 of the remaining 19,000 restored today. And then we'll continue to work round the clock. Our crews work 16-hour rotating shifts, and we'll work round the clock until every single customer is restored. We did notice or recognize the severity of this event. As soon as it happened, we mobilized. We did a call with other utilities in the state, and we requested 500 additional resources from upstate New York and out of state. We have 429 outside resources that are arriving on the property today. We're getting those crews checked in, and they'll be out this afternoon and tonight restoring customers. We also have a request in for another 200 line crews coming from upstate and out of state. We're working with the state's emergency management office, getting great support from them. So really looking at some of our single customers may be out until about Wednesday. We're doing everything possible to bring those in. We recognize the severity and the inconvenience, what it is to be out of power. So we're going to continue to work, be safe and be efficient, and get everybody back. As I mentioned, we won't sleep until they're all back. We also are doing a significant amount of outreach. We opened up a couple outreach centers in our customer offices throughout the island, and we'll be opening up a center in a shopping market this afternoon as well. And we'll get word out to our customers exactly where those locations are, and people can come pick up ice from us, charge their cell phones, spend some time in the air conditioning, cool off if they need to, and get some information on their particular outage. But it's been a team effort, great cooperation with Executive Malone's team, as well as the other towns on the island.
Dan, thank you very much. And we also want to thank the Governor's Office, Governor Cuomo, and the State Emergency Management Team for their efforts. Obviously, we always coordinate on storm events like this, both at the state level and at the local level. Again, I want to thank John Jordan, our Commissioner of Fire Rescue and Emergency Services, for their quick response, opening up the Emergency Operations Center. With that, we'll take any questions.
Do you have any idea on the number of trees down in the county? Like dozens, hundreds?
Yeah, do we have an exact number? No, we're still calculating the exact number. It was significant, the number of trees that were down. And part of it was, too, we've had a really significant amount of rain over the last couple of weeks, and the ground was pretty fertile for all of a sudden a storm like this and wind, and that combination can knock out a lot of trees, and I think we saw that.
Any more information on that storm-related death? It was from a tree. Do we know what town it was in?
So it's under investigation right now. It's still going through the process of communicating with the family. The medical examiner is doing the examination right now, and we don't have any additional details right now, but the presumption is drowning, but given the circumstances. But it's a terribly unfortunate event, and obviously our heart goes out to the family. But we don't want to prejudge. We want to let the investigation continue. We'll provide more details as it becomes available. Next question.
Mr. Eichhorn, can you explain why it'll be till Wednesday? What was it about the storm that is delaying the electricity being restored?
So as I mentioned, we'll work round the clock. We have approximately 2,000 damaged locations, and we prioritize based on critical facilities, the number of customers out on any given problem, but it's just a significant number of locations to go to. So majority of customers will be back tonight. We'll have about 98 to 99% restored by tomorrow, and then the customers that will be coming back online on Wednesday will typically be the single outage customers that have individual problems with their services, small areas, dead-end streets, and that type. And as I mentioned, we're doing everything we can to get more crews in, and if we can get more crews and bring that time in, we know every minute counts. So the more resources we have, the faster we can get to that last customer.
And I think what's significant here, two things. One, the severity of the storm and the nature of it. Again, straight line winds, this not being a tornado, but significant winds over a pretty wide stretch of area, hitting that area hard. and then the fact that it was unpredicted. Normally, when we have a storm coming here, we're coordinating in advance. They're assembling teams and crews ready to go, ready to be deployed. There was no advance warning on this, so all of that work that normally happens in storm prep did not happen here, and that deployment takes some time to fully execute.
You mentioned that you requested another 200. That's requested? Are they 200 coming?
We're waiting to hear back on that. We secured 429, and they're in our Bethpage Foreign Crew Processing Center now. Some of them are already working, some of them are arriving now. We have crews coming from upstate New York, from New Jersey, from the New England area, and throughout the day they'll be arriving as they get here.
Ballpark, how many are the single street, dead end kind of customers? How many of those kinds of cleanup, mop up kind of sites are there compared to the ones where you get larger swaths back?
Yeah, I would have to look at the data, but roughly about half of the remaining customers are smaller jobs, either small.
And the base on that is what's the half of?
Half of 19,000 that are still out.
Okay.
So about 9,000 are relatively small, either individual jobs or small dead-end streets with 4 or 5 customers.
And
Mr. Eichhorn, how many transmission lines are down? Do you know?
Right now we have no outages related to transmission lines. We have a very good system where we have N-1 failure capability. So any lines that are out right now are not causing any outages. And the ones that did go out, most of them are restored as of now.
So you would call those then distribution lines?
Correct. Everything I'm working on now is distribution lines. It's the typical lines that are on the county roads and along the local streets.
And to Steve, you were alluding before to how you see storms coming in the winter.
Right.
And you plan for them, and you staff up for them, and Stu does the same thing with the police department.
Yeah.
But this was something you didn't really anticipate.
Yeah, this caught everyone completely unawares, including us. This was not predicted, and what looked like maybe a rainstorm was coming on very short notice turned into a significant extreme weather event that caused, really a lot of damage and disrupted people's lives. And this was a normal, beautiful summer Sunday that was interrupted by a really significant extreme weather event.
Chief Karen, do you have any examples of any, I have heard that a tree split a car, I don't know if it was true, but any extreme examples of homes and or cars being hit, and if so, any minor injuries? I know there was only the one.
I've saw multiple reports of trees down on cars. I'm not aware of any really super significant example to cite for you of a tree down on a building or a car. But we did have, and very often when the trees are down, it's complicated by the fact that they're entangled in live wires. So we really appreciate the great partnership with PSE&G to get out there quickly to help us deaden those wires so we can cut those trees up and get the roadways opened up. And we also appreciate the work of the county and the town employees in getting out to help us reopen roadways. It makes our lives a lot easier.
So I'll follow up on that too. I attended yesterday on Sunday an event in Dix Hills Fire Department. Attended a couple of meetings, and by early afternoon, around 2 o'clock, was joining my family, my wife and my kids, down at Babylon Village Pool, which is a place where people go. And this was families were doing this all across Suffolk County, down at the beaches, on the bays, on the water, at Fire Island. Very similar scene. And I can tell you, within a matter of seconds, people who were just sitting there having a great time, kids playing on the beach, within a matter of seconds, that turned into a scene of total chaos where people were running, gathering their stuff, and seeking shelter as quickly as possible. That's how quickly this storm moved in and how severe it was. Any other questions?
With trees being uprooted, there's also some damages to sidewalks and there are people lived out onto the streets. Is there any estimate when residents have those repairs?
Sidewalks are going to take longer. There's no question about that. The immediate response is clear the roads. Once that happens, clear the trees, get the power back on as quickly as possible. That's the urgent public safety, public health need. And then the infrastructure work that will come after, that'll be followed up either by the county, if it's a county road, or by the town level. But that's not critical public health and safety, although that will be dealt with following the
Steve,
immediate cleanup.
Do you know how many calls to your office or the 911 total like at the high point in the hour, or
Overall, Chief, do you have the overall number? Or we can get that if we don't have it, but I don't know.
During the duration of the storm, from about 2:30 to about 7:30, which was the primary portion of when our system was stressed, we had 1,535 calls that we dispatched. As I said, we received multiple calls that were duplicate calls, and from a 2-hour standpoint, we received 900 incoming 911 calls. So it was, as I said before, magnitudes higher than on an average day, far, far higher than on an average day.
And the commissioner just noted that Fred's took on a 2-hour period over 1,000 calls. Over 1,000 calls, Department of Fire Rescue and Emergency Services. Yeah. Thank you.